The United States of America is known for having federal and state powers. However, there's an issue regarding these state powers that is the most urgent issue for the new president and Congress to address in these upcoming years, which has to do with something called gerrymandering. Why is it important? Well, state powers directly affect us as citizens of these states, and this is from the people of Congress. You know, the ones who are supposed to be the most important in our country. To understand the issue, let's look at the big picture. Every state has representatives from Congress who represent districts in the state. Every state has at least one representative, and any additional ones depend on the population of the state. This means larger populations get more representatives, and therefore more districts. Every 2 years, there are congressional elections where the 435 total representatives are up for grabs. Voters in the district vote for their district's representatives. These representatives will belong to a political party, whether it be Democratic, Republican, or third party. So what's the issue, you say? Well, every 10 years there's a new census for states, which means that districts will be remade. There are ways for these representatives to ensure that their party wins every election using these new districts. This is where gerrymandering comes into play. Take North Carolina, for example. Since the newest 2010 census, Republicans have been able to gain the majority based on the new districts following 12 years of a Democratic majority. So what is gerrymandering? It's defined as the dividing of a state into election districts so as to give one political party a majority in many districts while concentrating the voting strength of the other party into as few districts as possible. In other words, the districts that these people vote in can be deliberately mapped out so the majority of the population favors one particular political party. How does that work exactly? Imagine you have a grid that represents an entire state. The dots represent the population within the state. Each red dot represents Republican voters, while each blue dot represents Democratic voters. As you can clearly see, the Democratic has a majority by popular vote. If you were to arrange them into 5 districts, you would still have the majority of each district being Democratic. However, if you arrange it in a specific way, you will end up having the Republican voters getting majority, despite having less of a popular vote. As you can see, the district shapes alone can dictate the outcome of an election. The term of gerrymandering comes from Elbridge Gerry, a Massachusetts politician in 1812 who mapped out districts in order to favor his chosen political party. One of the districts ended up looking like this, resembling a salamander, kind of, which created the term gerrymandering. Those who are against gerrymandering argue that it completely shuts out opposing parties. This completely eliminates opposing party competition since the favored party will always have majority. There's also the implication of political polarization, where since candidates only have to worry about their favored party voters, a candidate's campaign can be tailored to the partisanship of these voters.
The problem is that, by and large, those states are controlled by very partisan legislatures that want to maximize their political advantage and leave the other side without any opportunities whatsoever. And the effect is to actually exaggerate the strength that one party has in a given state.
Well, the argument to oppose it is that it's partisan in a way that it reduces the fairness to people who don't agree with the majority party at that particular moment in time. Because once you've created these districts and the courts have accepted them, if there's a legal challenge, they're there for the next 10 years.
Others can argue that gerrymandering does not cause polarization because they argue that by that logic, the Senate should be less polarized since they represent states as a whole rather than individual districts. They also argue that gerrymandering can even increase competition within districts.
This kind of idea that gerrymandering is an important cause of polarization is really not accurate.
So there's sort of, and a lot of people have argued that gerrymandering has increased polarization by increasing the number of safe districts, but actually the political science on that suggests that that's not actually really a cause, because if that were the case, you would expect polarization to be much worse in the House than in the Senate, and that's not actually the case. The other thing with gerrymandering is you're actually trying to spread your voters out. So you actually want, the best way to gerrymander is to kind of get these districts that are like 55% your party. You actually don't want super safe seats because you want to be able to spread your voters out. So in that case, it should actually, gerrymandering should make districts a little bit more competitive if it's done in a partisan way.
Gerrymandering has been around for some time now, and there have been proposed solutions to this issue. In order to limit gerrymandering, commissions have recently been established in states which ultimately lessen the participation of state legislators in redistricting. However, only 26 states have some form of a redistricting commission, leaving the remaining 24 states with only legislators handling redistricting. You've heard the issue, and you've heard the arguments, but the real question is, what's there to do about it? Are we done?
Yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna go get some cereal.